Hello everyone and welcome to the My Québec City podcast and to today's episode, Training Until Failure. My name is Charlie Tremblay-Groslo and today I will be discussing the scientific process behind the concept of training until failure. Stay tuned to optimize your fitness and to have an overview of the pros and cons of integrating this method into your training. So first off, for those of you who may not know or may know what training until failure is, it is defined as repeating an exercise until momentary failure to the point where the body can no longer produce enough force to overcome the specific workload. So it may still not be clear to you how training until failure may affect your muscle growth or strength growth at all. So let's start by looking at how muscle grows in our body. Muscle growth is started by the action of the nervous system. Muscle has to be put under some degree of stress in order to grow. So there has to be something different in the way the nervous system interacts with the muscle in order to build strength and gain muscle size. That is what we call stress. Another key factor of muscle growth is tension. So tension is the time during which the muscle is at work and the range of motion used for the exercise. So how much time your muscle is in the eccentric portion of the exercise and how much time you spend in the concentric portion of the exercise. The last factor for muscle growth is muscle damage. And a lot of you may have noticed that oftenly when you work out, you're sore the next day or the next 2 days after the workout, and that is due to muscle damage. And that damage is the muscle fibers which are weakened during the exercise that you are doing, but they are then repaired during the rest period, and when they are repaired, they get stronger and bigger. Now that you know the three factors for muscle growth, let's go on to the pros of training until failure. So first off, there has been a study made by Dr. Carl Juno, which is called Formalizing the Theory of Effective Reps. And in this study, Dr. Juno argues that even if training volume plays a large role in muscle growth, not all reps are equal. And the closer a rep is to failure, the more effective it is at building muscle. And as a reference, you could say that the last 5 reps that you do in your set are the most effective at building muscle and building strength too. If you do train until failure, it would mean that you are hitting those 5 last reps, which are the most effective at building muscle. And it will also mean that you can cause tremendous muscle stress, tension, and damage, which means more muscle growth once again and more strength. As you train hard on every session, your nervous system will send a message to your muscles, which essentially will say, this is what we do from now on, so you better be ready and adapt to the workload I put on you, and you just got to do it. So the muscle will adapt and it will grow in size, and size is correlated with strength. So you will also grow in strength. It is all the more important to pick a weight with which you struggle if the program you are using is a low volume one, because there is less stress and tension put on the muscle, and so going hard and near failure makes it so muscle growth is still activated and you still get those full 5 last reps benefits. Now going on to the bad sides of training until failure. Well, obviously training until you can't during every session can lead to overtraining in the long term and even to injuries to the muscles and joints, which have been seen in many athletes who train hard every day, like Ronnie Coleman, who can't even walk today because he did bodybuilding at the time and went pretty hard. But there is still a way to counteract that and to decrease the chances of you getting injured, and that is to stretch and to warm up before every single session that you do. And I know that sounds like a hassle, but I mean, it's pretty important. And I know a lot of you still skip the warm up. That is a bad way to get injured. Apart from the injuries and the overtraining, some people find the decrease in their motivation when training hard every time. But if you really have the will to train, it should not cause any problem to you at all. Now, if you are still wondering whether you should or shouldn't incorporate this training method into your training, depends on your long-term goals in fitness. If your goal is to gain strength and muscle mass fast and effectively, well, training until failure would benefit you a lot. But if your fitness goal is just to counteract the decrease in strength caused by age, then standard training would be plenty to do that, and you would avoid the risk of injuries that come with training until failure and also the risk of overtraining. You've been listening to today's episode of the Québec City podcast, Training Until Failure. We hope that the concept discussed during the podcast have been useful to you, and thank you for listening.